Shalom, welcome back to Shofar Mountain, Sister Kate Shofar Mountain channel. I was asked to do a video on Lonely America, and a very supportive person had sent me an article, a newspaper article, about a particular, it was kind of like an editorial, it was a journalist giving their opinion of Lonely America. And I read the article, and I don't know if I got the correct conclusion, but what I concluded from it was he was sort of blaming conservatives in America for lonely America. And I thought that was kind of crazy. Lonely America is part of the modern world. It is a logical conclusion to some of the events that have been happening before it. And you have to look at any subject in context. That means if I'm talking about Barbara Bunny, I keep my comments and everything related to that conversation to that topic, Barbara Bunny. I don't bring in, giraffes that are in trouble in Africa unless somehow they are related. So when we talk about Lonely America, we have to look at things that would affect people and make them isolated in our culture. So I'm going to jump right on number one, which would be the breakup of the family. And I cannot stress how important that is to societal change, and the people who pushed that rhetoric from around 1960 to about 1990 had that in mind. They were fracturing our culture. Now, why? I have no idea. I don't know why anyone would want to bother to fracture a successful culture. Just makes no sense, because we end up helping everybody else because we're so strong, and we have that ethic in our societal makeup is to help other people. We send search and rescue to foreign countries. We send money aid. We send all kind of stuff, and in return, we are also, it's kind of a quid pro quo. If we give you help, we expect some political support or some sort of influence in your area. That's just how it works. Anyway, when they started fracturing the family, they started with the women first, because biblically, the women are to be under the control of their husband. He's the head of a house, and his wife is under him. She's like his lieutenant, his cheerleader, his person who's running the house for him while he's out competing with the rest of the world. And under them are their children, their offspring, and those two support those offspring, help raise them up and teach them, discipline them, and make them members of society who then help the structure as a whole. And so they go for the wife first and get her to rebel against her husband, to decide she wants to be independent and to stop doing her nurturing job and her teaching job, and to leave the family, and the whole thing collapses. And it worked great. The women's rights movement, the abortions, and raising women's pay when they're in the workforce and everything worked beautifully, and it fractured the American family. And then you had all these single family homes, which are awful. If you talk to any child of, adult of a single family home, they all say it's hard. It's way harder. And it only makes common sense, folks. Come on now. If there's one person digging a ditch, it's harder than if two people are digging a ditch. Two people digging the ditch make the work less. That's just common sense. And I don't care how you wrap this stuff up in ideological phrases or freedom or whatever. There's always a cause and an effect. A cause and an effect. When you divide a family and take out one of the adults, that family will not function as well as when you have two. And they've even proven, even if it's not a great two mother-father combo, they still, the children do better than children from a single family home. It's just in stats. Look it up. And even if it's not in stats, it just makes sense, okay? You need to be using this, okay? So, that started it. That started the fracture of the family, and that causes isolation just there. You have all these children who are told it's not your fault, but in their psyche, they blame themselves for the breakup of the family. And now those people are dysfunctional. They have not been taught by both parents how the whole society works. And we are a very complex society because we're a very successful society. And we're also very intellectual. Like, there's so many things a citizen on this planet needs to learn to be a successful person. And especially in America, because we're even more successful than so many other countries. There's so many things you need to learn. And school is not the place for you to learn them all. School is the place where you learn the book learning part. Home is where you learn the personal stuff, the societal stuff, the belief systems and the manners and how you do your checkbook and how you wash your clothes and all those things that a mom and a dad teach their children. How to work on the car and how to maintain the house. That's not taught at school, nor should it be taught at school. That's not what school's about. And now school has been propagandized. We all know that. They're teaching a bunch of liberal nonsense. That's another way the people who want to destroy our society are working to destroy it. They are making the schools a political place instead of a place of just learning things like history and mathematics and how to read and how to spell and how to communicate and all the things. So you get these poor kids who are now, their families torn apart. It's very important, children's security and to be provided for in your single family home. Now, I'm not saying all now. We'll divide that up. Some single family homes are doing better than others, and so some of them are providing for the children, but many of them are not. And the government steps in, and it's part of the whole politicization and the destruction of the society to have the government supporting people. That's not what the government ought to be doing. What the government ought to be doing is making the society good for the parents so the parents can support the children. So you get, that's a breakup right there. That's the beginning of the isolation. And then you throw on there, because schools and churches are a place where you can socialize. So in that, school could be good if it weren't a propaganda machine now. And you would learn how to get along with other people, and you would learn cooperation in groups and sports. Now, we were not huge on sports because I was not in sports, but sports has a really good place in teaching people to work as a team and achieve a goal. So does 4-H and some of the after-school programs. I really like forensics, where you learn how to discuss and have arguments and present points. There's a lot of after-school activities that are teaching ways to get along with people, and so do churches. Churches have lots of, VBSs and Bible study classes and things. Those are good for teaching people how to, have manners. But manners, excuse me, in the 50s used to be part of being in school. And school dances were held, so you could teach the children how, you would behave at a school dance, how to approach someone and say, hey, would you like to dance with me? Let's go get something to drink. Let's talk. There were charm schools. That was something like dance schools nowadays. You could go to a charm school and you could learn manners and societal, not necessarily rules, but customs. And so if you were, a single person and you wanted to approach another single person and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, you were taught how to do that in a way that the other person understood it without crossing boundaries, without having everything hanging out and you're just offering yourself for sex to this person and they're offering themselves for sex back. No, it was, if you went out on a date, you went for coffee and you talked, or you went to a park and you walked around, or a museum and you got to know the person, and then there were polite ways to also withdraw if it wasn't working out. That is no longer around. I mean, there's a book out there called The Game, and the whole point of it is to learn how to get someone in bed with you. It's just, we've leaped from, just basic interaction to end game kind of, give me your drugs, I want to take money from you, whatever. We've lost all of that civilized behavior in between. And so that's part of it. Idea, my third point for the Lonely America is, of course, the digital age. The age where People can actually have communication with other people and relationships online. And it's much easier to do it online because you can just hold it in your hand. It's like having a phone in your hand, and computers and everything have made communication with other people that easy. I can communicate with someone in Timbuktu today if I want, or Spain or Germany or, you know, Guatemala. I can just get online and search it out and chat with people all over the world in a way that makes the world smaller. I get that. But it also makes face-to-face interaction outdated. And outmoded, and so people are losing, through the other ways I said, the ability to communicate in a real way. Because believe it or not, even though you watch me every single day and I'm living a real life here, our relationship is not a real relationship. It's not the same relationship we would have if we saw each other face to face, and that's where we're losing out. And so how do we counteract that? Do face-to-face relationships. Get involved in your community, in your area. Don't worry about what's happening in New York City. Go to your grocery store and talk to the clerk. Go to your library and talk to your librarian. Join a group. Start a group. Meet people face-to-face. If you don't know how to do it correctly, get a Miss Manners book and read it and learn what manners are, because they are a way for you to communicate with people you don't know. And that is how we take care of lonely America. And the other thing, and I should have said it first, and I'm not a pastor, so you got to give me a little space. Get to know God. Get to know God and learn his attitude towards his creation, so that you have that same attitude of love and concern for what other people are and about other people. All right. I hope that answers on my opinion of lonely America. Shalom.